Kayak anglers of the internet, welcome back to the Advanced Kayak Angler Podcast with myself, Dan Perry, and my co-host, Kurt Smits. What's up, man?
Man, just the temperature.
Yeah.
It is so hot here in Cincinnati. Everything in my yard's dying. I'm watering it like crazy, and it's still just dying. Everything's dead here. It's been 95 for like a week at least.
Yeah. We've had like hit and miss storms today, but they've all missed us in my yard. So,
oh god,
we haven't had one half looks okay, and the other half is like no bueno, like really bad. I'm gonna get an HOA letter here before long.
Oh man, we need some rain so bad. There's a quarry by me, so it's an old quarry that's a lake now, and it's so low you can't get into the back half. It's just so much water's evaporated out of it. Nothing runs into it. There's no creek or nothing that runs into it. So it's just brutal. But I get to go fishing tomorrow.
All right.
I kicked ass at work all week, and so I got the day off tomorrow. So I'm happy about that until about noon. Then I'm gonna come home and sit in the AC.
Dude, I haven't been in weeks. It's been all kid stuff here recently. My kid had a soccer tournament last weekend. It was so hot. I don't know how they did it, but they did good. So
they still have them outside, and like when it's 100 degrees.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's at least that makes them tough.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got to brag. He got they ended up getting second in their division, and they got 11 goals total out of the 4 games that they played, and my kid got 9 of them.
Oh, that's awesome, man! Right on.
He is like.
Stud.
Like, I was a good athlete whenever I was young and in shape and all that, but he is legitimately like, crazy good athlete. Really proud of him. So. There you go. Yeah. All right. So this week we got at least one great guest, maybe a second one. We'll see. But we're talking about podcasting, and we got with us the one and only Mr. KBN, Ryan Lambert. What's up, dude?
Is the great guest the guy that's not here yet?
That's, all right. Oh no, fair. It's you, buddy.
That's fair. I like it. What's going on, guys?
Yeah, not much. The number one thing in podcasting is to show up to the podcast.
Yeah, whether you're hosting or the guest, be on time, kids. We're working on that today.
Just chirping him if he does show up. He played hockey. He'll be okay with that.
Yeah.
So
we don't have a lot of that down here.
Yeah. No. So what's been going on in KBN world, man?
Oh, just plugging along every Monday night of my life. I don't know. We started, for people that don't know or hadn't listened to KBN or hadn't listened to it long, we started as like a joke. Like everybody would drink beer and pretty much FaceTime on their phones. And, I guess people enjoyed it. Like we do a lot of, joking and banter and whatnot. It's not super serious, but it kind of grew legs and took off. And, I think over the past 2 or 3 years, we've really tried to put a spotlight on anglers, obviously, great tournament anglers, but also kind of tell some of the stories that are going on with the sport and make it, more of a platform for anglers to get their names out there and people to get to know who they are more so than anything else. So it's transformed a little over the years, but it's pretty smooth sailing now. I'm not too mad at it.
Some tournament winners and some people meeting at the ramp. It's like a good mix.
I mean, you never know. You never know what you're going to do that's going to land you on the show, but stay ready. You don't have to get ready.
The crazy thing about y'all is, I mean, not only y'all are so influential. I mean, I can't, there is nobody more influential in kayak fishing. I was telling Kurt this before, like the Hobie thing and how bass has become so big. And I think y'all have so much sway now, but it's not just the podcast. Y'all also have the group page that is so, anything that happens in kayak fishing and tournament fishing is on there.
So that's the tricky part about the group page, though, is it's its own animal. Like we, when we made KBN, the group page, it was unfiltered. You weren't going through like censoring topics or opinions or ideas or anything. Like it's a free for all in there, but we had to kind of separate the podcast from the group page to try to make it, because it started being more of a platform, that the industry's paying attention to, that, these company leaders, the tournament directors, Bass themselves, like they're paying attention to what is said and done there. So we had to kind of separate that from the heathens that are that are on the group page. Both are entertaining, both have their place, but we try to steer the podcast a little more down the straight and narrow.
Yeah,
some of the neat things about it being just like a Wild West in there is that you do get some of these controversial opinions, but we also, I mean, there's been a couple times where I've read something on there where I reached out to you, like, what's going on? Like, I didn't hear anything about it. And it ended up being some stuff that changed some rules here and there, and some things got modified in the kayak fishing competition.
I mean, and that's happened a lot, and I think that is, I understand its negatives. I do. I understand the kind of shadow cast over the group page, but that's where a lot of rule changes have taken place because we've been doing this for 10 or 12 years now on the kayak fishing tournament scene. And the early years, it was kind of hush-hush controlled chaos. Like, there wasn't necessarily like a sounding board. And if you shared an opinion that wasn't approved, you were banned or kicked out of the group. And that's how KBN started, because I don't think if you're trying to make something better by silencing opinions on how to improve it, that's not how you have to listen to your customer base. Like, these tournament directors are providing a service, like they have to listen to their customers. And part of that is listening to issues and kind of honing in the rules to make it, it's never going to be a level playing field, that it can't be. Like, that's not a thing that's going to happen. But at least put everybody on the same starting line and let it go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, you really have to be careful whenever you dip your toes into the group page, because I've been burnt up before. Like, before I post anything, I think about it. Like, how dumb is this? And how is this going to get, burnt up? As soon as I put something in there.
Twist it around a little bit.
I honestly, like, for the last year and a half, I haven't really looked at the group page much. Like, unless somebody is like, hey, or tags me in something, I don't even pay attention to it. I try to just stay out of all of it. If it's not something that is, sent via screenshot to the DMs, I don't really know what's happening in there anymore. So I like it.
But you'll get stuff straight from, I mean, I can't imagine anybody in kayak fishing, maybe your boy Steve, is more connected than you are, because it seems like everything filters through, so many things have filtered through you over the years.
It's the weird thing, though. Like, people, they'll have issues or something. I remember, I think it was the Susquehanna tournament last year, the bass tournament up there. There were people, I had 20 messages, and I'm not fishing it. I'm at home in a boot sitting on the couch, and there's like 20 different people messaging me about stuff, and I screenshotted what their message was and sent it straight to Steve-O. I'm like, and I told every one of them, like, I'm not able to do it. Like, I'm not the police. I'm not, anything. Like, you go to the tournament director first. Anytime you have an issue or a question about a rule, go to the tournament director first. It's their job to run the tournament. If they don't address the issue or acknowledge, then we can talk. Then we can get a little more light on it. But always go to your TD first. Like, I'm happy to help shed light on things that are being, ignored or brushed under the rug. But, like, it's not Jeff or myself's job to run a tournament for people or police the rules or whatever. I mean, that's kind of crazy, but I think like you said, it's happened over the years, and it was usually like cheating stuff. Like, we had people submitting duplicate fish or bending boards or cutting boards, or, like a million different scandals that we've had over the past 8 or 9 years. But that's how it started, with stuff that had gone unnoticed, and these internet sleuths that we have out there going through 3-year-old Tourney X photos, find this stuff and post on the group page. And then you have an issue, because you have money that's changed hands. Sometimes it's across state lines. Like, it becomes like an actual legal issue. And it was, discovered and brought forth on the group page. So I don't know how we got there, but here we are. anyway. I think the sport as a whole, rules wise, especially, is much better off than where we were 7 or 8 years ago. Like I think the momentum that we have with what Bassmaster is doing and Hobie is doing, I think the momentum that we have is huge. I mean, who thought, back 8 or 10 years ago, we would see like regular tournaments paying 10, 12, 14 grand every tournament. Like that's insane.
So we did a whole episode last week on cheating. That was part of it. What's been your favorite cheating scandal out of all of them?
Dude,
is it Titty Girl?
She was a good one. Yeah, that was a fun one. Like some tournament director distraction techniques. I feel like
somebody messaged me today. What was that? Where can I find them pictures? I'm like,
bro, that was KBN in its infancy too. That's when it was the Wild West, and the comments, like if you ever go back and dig up that thread, like the comments were savage. Like it was rough. The board cutter guy, was he in Kentucky? Kurt, you remember the guy that
one of them
had
was in Kentucky?
Yeah, he had like 3 different sized catch boards that he had cut and glued back together, or not catch boards, hog troughs. Yeah, hog troughs. The old like flimsy hog troughs. He had them with like cut and glued with dowel rods in the back, and he would catch a 14-inch fish, and well, it's a 16-inch fish on this board, it's an 18-inch fish on this board, but that was a good one. I feel like that was a really solid.
Think about that, man. You catch one fish and you have more than 50% of your limit. Boom.
Yeah, I mean that's consistency to be able to pull that off. All the fish look the same. It's weird, but they're obviously the same genealogy because they're different links, but look exactly the same.
Guy in Ohio did that too, man. I mean, it was,
I don't know. We've had some nice ones. Those are the top 2 for me, I think.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the podcast, because that's what this whole episode's about, man. One of the things that me and Dan talked about, man, it's easy to start a podcast, right? You just get some software, laptop, cell phone, boom, you got a podcast going.
Yep.
The hard thing is keeping it going, right? And
how many have come and gone?
A lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's like anything in life. I mean, how many people have came in and out of the sport of kayak fishing in the last decade? And I think running a podcast is a lot like keeping up with kind of the drive to stay in anything, whether it's competitive kayak fishing or pickup league basketball or whatever. Like there's a burnout factor to where, when you first started out, it's fun and, you're excited and, oh yeah, we're going to do all this great stuff. And then 4 years later, every Monday of your life, you're like, oh, well, time for second shift. We got to get on here and do this podcast. And I'm not saying that like Jeff and I really enjoy it, but it does feel like a job sometimes, and it should, because we have great sponsors that support the show, and we're making some side money off of it, and we get a lot of great interviews like Jordan Lee, Mike Iaconelli, Gerald Swindle. Like it's awesome to be able to have that kind of connection to the industry, and I love it. But that's the difficult part, is continuing to stay motivated, and what do you do next? And like Jeff is the planner of our duo by far. He's got a spreadsheet with like episodes laid out, and then he's like, yeah, I'm going on vacation, you got to wing it. So like 5 minutes before, I'm like texting people, hey, you want to come on the podcast? Like, he's the organized one. I'm here for pure entertainment. That's it. But that's the thing, is you just have to stay consistent. It's like a workout program or anything else. I mean, you just have to stick with it.
How do you find, like, how have you found your own lane? Because it seems like
I'm in the ditch, brother. I don't even get in the lane. I'm off in the ditch. That was us. I mean, we tried to stay out of the lane. I felt like and for people that haven't listened to KBN before, it's a lot of comedy and banter. Like, and we do cover serious topics and, do the tournament days, but every little jab I can slip in, I try to make it entertaining and less, kind of monotonous, like you're in an actual like job interview or something. Like I want people to loosen up, because a lot of times people that haven't been in front of a camera or spoken into a microphone, they kind of freeze up a little bit when they're put on the spot. I think you have to kind of lighten the mood so people open up and talk a little more freely. That's my logic behind it anyway.
There's definitely better guests than others. Sometimes it's like, especially as with Paddle and Finn, and we always had the top 3 from tournaments. Like, oh, that some bitch won again. We got to have him on. Just want to say 5 words.
It's like pulling teeth. Like, but I want to do it because I know that it may not be the best show for us, but it's good for them to get the experience, get their name out there, people know who they are, and also, like anything else, it's going to make them more comfortable do it in the future. Like, Ewing is a great example. I remember the first time we had Ewing on, he was like he was, he wasn't super talkative and comfortable, and now he's, he's a podcast pro. Like, he's completely comfortable I think that comes from the confidence, not that he ever lacked that in his fishing abilities, but the confidence in talking to people and kind of, being able to deliver the message that he's trying to. So it's fun, but yeah, some guests are a little more challenging than others to get entertainment value out of.
For me, it's always like the stories, man. I really like to hear the stories, the challenges, just all the little ins and outs, like, of people's personalities and how they're dealing with these very stressful tournaments. Because let's face it, man, if you're doing a Hobie or a Bass or an All-American, I mean, if you're not stressed at least a little bit, you probably shouldn't be there.
I mean, it's a mental game. Like, your biggest opponent in a fishing tournament is yourself. And I've been completely guilty of that this year. I've been focused on, like, my job has been super busy this year. My daughter has been doing travel volleyball everywhere. Honestly, kayak fishing is about the bottom of my priority list. I love it. I'm and I want to participate in it because I love, like, what Steve-O and AJ are doing with it. And I don't want to not be there to support that, but, like, my competitive drive is not, like, I could care less. Like, I love going and seeing everybody, but this year has not really been a hungry year for me on the fishing front. But that you have to have that, though, to do well. You have to. Like, you're not going to go out on any given tournament day and stumble up on a 99-inch bag 2 days in a row not trying to. Like, everybody goes out and you may bump into a school of fish and have one good day, but these tournaments with a level of competition, to win one of them, it's not luck. It's not accident. Like, you got to be hungry for it. You have to.
You have to be working hard, hungry, and have good luck all at the same time. People don't realize, like, how much goes into, like, doing well at these tournaments. They think that it's like a vacation, or, if they're non-fish, if they don't fish tournaments, they're like, it's a vacation. It's an interesting mix. For sure. And like you said, man, the competition level is just so incredibly high, and the people are so diverse, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've met people all across the country now from doing tournaments, and the personalities and their styles couldn't, some of them couldn't be any more night and day, right? Guys down in Florida to people up in Michigan, I mean, they're just like totally different animals.
That's the fun part for me about the whole thing that we have, the whole community that we have, though, is you get to meet so many different people, and, everybody has their own way of looking at things, and you learn so much just from hanging out with them. Like, I mean, not even like following them around on the water, watching what they're tying on, but just like their viewpoint on things, like how they recognize, oh, well, northwest wind today, pollen counts 99. I'm going to throw it. I'm like, all right. Yeah. Hell, I didn't. Okay. Yeah. That's smart, buddy. I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah, you never know, like, the little stuff. And it's kind of reminds me of being like around old men fishermen, like with old fable, like, oh, there's sap coming off the north bank there. Like, I'm throwing the jitterbug. Like, you never know what you may. I mean, it could be bullshit, but could also be a helpful tip for you. So always talk to people at the boat ramp every chance you get.
I remember sitting at it was the Hobie event down on Eufaula that Bailey won, and I was sitting with him and Adam Reiser, and Bailey's. I mean, he ended up winning that one, but he said a couple of things. I was like, that same thing. It was I can't remember what he was talking about.
It was something about the grass that was in the area, or the water clarity with that type of grass. Or I remember it was some little nuanced thing that I'm like, I'm just down there fighting alligators with a spinning rod, and I'm like, what? Like how? What are you talking about? Like, I mean, I agree.
He said that, and I was like, woo! Like I can't remember. I'm out of this one.
That interview. Yeah. If he shows up tonight, we'll ask him. But it was something about.
It was about swimming. Is swimming? Was it a chatterbait or a swim bait underneath?
That's what I was trying to think of. It was something to do with that specific bait and like the distance off of the grass because of the water cloud. I was like, okay, all right, nerd, whatever. Good job figuring that one out.
But like that's a great story, right? This guy comes from way up north all the way down to Eufaula. You don't get much lower for bass fishing in the U.S. than Eufaula.
Yeah, and you mean that in happiness experience and in in the southernmost lake, because Eufaula fished freaking tough in that. Actually in every tournament that we've had on Eufaula, to be honest with you, it has not done us well down there.
Hey, he wasn't even fishing the area that suited his style either, and that was a crazy part. He wasn't out there with a graph. He was doing other stuff,
doing what we all wanted to do, beat the banks. He just did it around fish.
But the thing I've always admired about KBN, and I did live for a little while, but it's probably the best part of your show because all the feedback and the things that everybody's saying on the different social media is y'all do a live show every week. How tough is it?
High risk, buddy.
Show, man?
You never know. I mean, number one, I never know how many cocktails I may have. So that's always a factor that we have to work into the show. But I mean, people are commenting live, like throughout the feed, like it's out there for the world to see. That's the riskiest part about about doing a live show, especially with the way the group page is. Like, you never know. Like, somebody could throw a hand grenade in there at any point, and then you have to make a decision, like, kind of disaster response unit out there to mitigate the damage. But we have, honestly, I love our live viewers. I love the interaction. They're all like saying what's up to each other in the comments and stuff. And to me, that makes it fun. I think, and I also think that helps us connect to the listeners too, because you can come in, you can chime in, you can share your opinion on stuff, and we put it on the screen and read it on air, and it makes it a little more interactive, and it also makes it easier on us because they're feeding us questions and topics and stuff to talk about throughout the podcast itself.
Yeah, I've always thought that was y'all's secret sauce, but and now y'all have gotten big enough that people show up to your show whenever it's like, like whenever, because fishermen are not always the most, like punctual people on earth.
Like Bailey.
Yeah, so to have them show up, at least now y'all have gotten big enough. Was it more of a problem whenever y'all were starting to get anybody to show up on time?
I mean, I remember like when we first did it, it was mostly like our buddies that would just tune in to me and Shane and Jim Clark and Jeff rambling on, holding our cell phones, sitting on the couch with Venetian blinds behind us or whatever. I mean, from where it started to where it went, I remember we were at like, our audience for live would be like 15 or 16 people. And then I remember, we hit 50, and that's like, okay, milestone, cool. Then it was 75, then it's 80. And we've had some that are like 220, 230 live, like interacting in the comment. Like, what is that? Like, me and Jeff are like, what are we doing? Like, what's going on here, man? It's crazy. And it's fantastic. And my buddy, he runs like an entertainment type podcast. He's like top 1% podcast in the world. And he does that for a living. That's all he does is just record 3 or 4 podcasts a week. And I look at his numbers, like we think we're doing great. And in the kayak bass, space, we are, like, that's fine. But in the world of podcasts, like the market, like we're catering to a 0.02% market of the population, where, like actual entertainment podcasts are, they're putting out to millions and millions of people. So we're humble. We know our place, but it is fun. It's fun to see it grow. And again, I love where we're at. And like when it's time for the show to start, before we even go live, like there's 2 or 3 guys that are already in the comments, like, "All right, guys, come on, hurry up, kick it off." And I'm like, "Oh, that's hilarious." we're getting there.
Like you said, the podcast has evolved, and like you were saying, it evolved into where you're spotlighting some of the anglers and giving them some stuff. And I know, as someone who's been on the podcast, it's massively appreciated by anyone who's been on it, man. And because it's really hard to get any recognition or to get the word out there about a tournament or your story in the tournament, man. It's always fun talking about that and hashing it out with other really good anglers that have been there. I mean, so from us competitors, I like to say thank you. I mean, it's a really fun thing that you guys do, man. Because it's not always that, it's not always the tournament guys on your show.
Yeah.
So
And we try to balance it out and and we don't we do like the YouTube channel reviews and stuff like to help, people that are just getting into the sport. Everybody's like, "Oh, I'm going to start a YouTube channel." Like, I've done it myself. I have one. I don't never do anything with it. But you have these people that are wanting to get into it. And then you have these guys that do it. Like they're editing 3 or 4 or 5 videos a week. So we bring in the people that are, making a decent amount of money on YouTube to come in and give the new folks tips, and they submit their channels and we pull them up live and go through a couple clips and their thumbnails. And, we try to, I don't know. I feel like when you're doing, I think we do probably 50 episodes a year. We usually take 2 weeks off. You got to think of a lot of stuff for 50 shows, because there aren't 50 big kayak tournaments. Fun fact.
So where I guess this is kind of like where are you drawing how are you figuring up the new stuff to come up with, man? Where's that coming from? Are you guys?
I got a lot of stuff rattling around up here, buddy. I don't know. I don't know. And that's the thing. I think the biggest reason why KBN has done so well is because me and Jeff are really good balance for each other. Like, we have similar viewpoints on things, but our process is different. So the way he thinks and the way I like, he's a lot more thought out and planned, and I'm just like a squirrel. Like, I'll see something on TV or listen to a podcast like Theo Vaughn or something. I'm like, hey, it'd be cool to work in something like that. Like, Jeff thought of the YouTube review thing, and I was like, that's dumb. Like, I was like, yeah, whatever. And then that was actually one of like our best shows. Like, people are reaching out like, thank y'all so much. And Jeff's like, I told you. I was like, you're right. It's okay. It's all right.
My favorite is a Halloween show in the costume.
The Halloween call-in show is always fun, and especially when people do. Remember when Josh Evans called in as J-Fish? He had on a blonde wig and did his best Christine impersonation like that. You're right. That's a good one.
Because you never know. Whenever they pop up on the screen, it's like and nobody has any idea what's coming.
Bob out there in Minnesota, you never know what he's going to do. Bob Baylor, he's one of our favorite
Ryan Van
guests.
Tyne, he's done.
Oh yeah, Van Tyne. You never know what he's going to do or say, I feel like, but that is a fun one. I don't know. We try to do like a Christmas episode. We try to do the Halloween deal. We'll do like if I can't be there or Jeff can't be there, sometimes Jeff has like all this AI software that'll go through your previous podcast and like put together like the most interacted with clips, and we'll string together a best of show. Like, so you're not actually having to sit and physically edit it. So there's software that'll do the whole thing for you, it turns out. But I don't know. We try to do fun stuff like that. And then honestly, probably the thing I'm most proud of with KBN and the podcast is these charity tournaments. Like, we've done a couple. We did one for JT, obviously. That was our first and biggest probably thing that we'll ever be a part of. And it was fantastic. And then a couple years later, Jeff's granddaughter, Rowan, is diagnosed with a really rare form of cancer too. And Jeff never asked for anything. He didn't ask for anything. As soon as he told me, I had flyers made up and sponsors on board. And he's like, dude, stop. He called. He's like, come on. I was like, no, heck no, dude. Like, we're family. Like, we got you. We got you. I love that part. Like, you can say whatever you want to about the group page or us or the podcast or whatever. But like when people step up and move mountains, especially for kids, like I love that. Let that be my legacy. I'll take it.
That's a damn good one, man.
Yeah, that really is, man.
Yeah,
that's my favorite part. All the rest is you can wash it off with Dawn dishwashing soap, but that part will stick.
What other podcasts do you listen to? Theo Vaughn.
Dude, I love Theo Vaughn.
Yeah.
Like he's hilarious. We hung out last Thursday in Nashville. Like he is hilarious. Like I love the guy. He's just his way of I don't know if it's looking at life or the way his brain strings together thoughts. Like he comes up with stuff that I feel like the average person probably wouldn't go into. I like Joe Rogan podcast quite a bit. I listen to that often. I kind of like that more entertainment. Kill Tony. I love Kill Tony podcast. Yeah. That's hilarious. There has to be humor in it for me. Like I can't just sit and listen to talking heads. Like if you gotta be cracking some jokes or it's hard to keep me involved.
What podcast do you listen to, Kurt?
Honestly, Ryan's is one. Bailey's Serious Angler is probably my two favorite podcasts.
I wish Bailey was on here because I remember probably 5 years ago, Bailey, was just getting out of college and new and asking all kinds of questions about how to get into the industry. And dude, he has done fantastic, like social media wise, his podcast is phenomenal. His YouTube, like he has killed it. So Bailey, I'm sorry you didn't show up for work today, but I'm proud of you.
I mean, the level of dedication it takes to do a podcast is a lot. To be able to do that with multiple podcasts and manage them and his job and the YouTube channel and still be a great tournament angler, that's like for real dedication, on top of like stacks of dedication.
That's hustle.
And he has a girlfriend.
Yeah,
supposedly. So they say. Kurt. Yeah, I was like, hold on. I thought they were married, but I'll let you take that one.
But you know what I'm saying, though. I mean, because having a wife also takes up time, right? I mean, and keeping the balance between all of that, is amazing, and it's just really impressive to see. And
good on him, but I mean, he's doing it, and don't get burned out. That's the trick. I'm notorious for putting too many irons in the fire, and then I'm sitting there. You can't make it too much to where you stress yourself out. You don't enjoy it anymore. Like it's that way with anything, I think. But keep it fun, keep it manageable for sure. Any future podcasters out there, keep that in mind. Don't run yourself in the ground.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the big things is how do you keep a balance between, fishing and now I have a fishing career. I have, so many people try to make it something that's not rather than just have fun with it, I guess.
I think Jeff and I both, I know Jeff, his back and neck will give him problems. Like he doesn't tournament fish a whole lot anymore. And this year I haven't really either because, like I said, I've got actual, real life priorities that I'm paying attention to this year. But, used to I'd fish 25 tournaments a year. And that's a lot and do the podcast part. But I think we have both. And a lot of it is due to the growth of the podcast. I think we're pretty happy. We're pretty happy doing the entertainment and the media part. And I would like to continue to grow that. I was talking to one of my buddies last night. He's like, what are you trying to do in like the kayak fishing space? And I was like, man, tournaments are fun. It's cool, whatever. I want to help guide like the next move here. And we've talked about it on our podcast several times. I think where kayak fishing is going is going to be live streaming. It's going to be like a Bassmaster type show, interactive type deal. And I'm not saying be live throughout the day commentating, but maybe at a couple points during the day, come in, pull up Tourney X, sit and talk about the anglers, talk about where they're at. Just something to kind of keep it fresh, and then do a live interview before awards, before everybody knows where they finished, and kind of get their guess on like how they feel like they did, how they feel like, you think so-and-so fell on his face. Like there has to be, until we get live streaming into the kayaks, which I think that's the move. Once you do that, you can just tap into people's feed, and you could do a live show all day. But I think there has to be more interactive pieces on the tournament deal. And it's great that, AJ and Steve do the leaderboard updates or whatever. But I think there's a lot left on the table entertainment wise in kayak fishing, because fans or your family or people at home, what do they have to look at? Tourney X, like scrolling Tourney X, like, that's not engaging at all. So anyway, that's what's on the forefront, I feel like.
And I would love to see something like that. And I've been saying it myself. That's exactly what we need. We need someone to package it for the average consumer who isn't in tournaments to consume it. And the format that we have now just isn't, the tournament director can't do it all.
No, and they don't have time. Like,
they don't have time.
The TDs are dealing. If you've never been a tournament director, or you're not close with a tournament director, that tournament director has 700 fires to put out all day long. Like, it's everything. Somebody's motor tore up and they're washed up against a Lowhead Dam, or so and so went past the buoy, or Johnny's too far up the creek. Like, there's always a million things that the TDs have to deal with. So I don't expect them or fault them for not, being some sort of entertainment factor throughout the day while they're judging everybody's fish and dealing with all their complaints.
I mean, it's tough right now, but it seems like the biggest thing that they're missing out on is, capturing all the content that's being created while they're out on the water. Because like, you might have the upper level of fishing that people want to watch because it's the newest techniques and things like that. But I definitely think entertainment value, kayak fishing has to be much more entertaining than, bass boat fish, because you're running from storms, geese are attacking you, or your people's turtling, or
you're fishing a river and all your rods are caught up in every tree limb for 7 miles, and you're trying not to flip, or you're hung over and you drop your phone. There's a lot of things that can happen out there. So I hear.
One day.
Yeah.
So, do you see KBN actually doing that? Like going to the tournaments and interviewing the people?
I don't know. So that's kind of the thing that Jeff and I have talked about. I don't know if we just need to leave KBN and let that be its own thing. And we have tried not to affiliate with one tournament series or another financially, anything like that. Like Hobie, we gave away a kayak to promote Hobie Worlds, but we don't want to tie ourselves to one series or another, because then I think that taints the well there. Like, then you're not getting the promotion or the coverage, and I don't want to do that for the anglers. Like I don't want people to feel like, oh, well, this is the Bassmaster, their baby podcast or what. Like, I don't want to do that. So I think if we did it for both series, we would do it under KBN. But if there is a growth opportunity with one series or another, and it's just us specifically doing that, it would be something else. Like, we'd come up with a new name or something, but it would obviously be affiliated with that tournament series. But just kind of leave KBN as its own entity. That way it stays attached to the group page, and nobody tries to burn us at a live coverage event.
And so I feel like it's really interesting to see, we talked about Bailey and how he's doing multiple platforms, not just podcasts. And what we're talking about right now is above and beyond what a podcast would be, right? I mean, we're talking about a live show, interviews, video. To see you guys change and grow, man. I mean, you went from just hanging out, talking on the couch, and now we're talking about productions, like real production, not just like our office, but like a real production happening.
Yep. I don't know. I think, we kind of talked about the influence that the podcast has had over stuff, and that's my favorite part is working with AJ and Steve-O on feedback, on rule changes, on bouncing ideas off, or just reaching out like, hey, here's how you make this better, and seeing it happen and seeing the results of it and seeing their platforms grow and the numbers go up and people are enjoying the sport more. I think I want to see, and we talk about it all the time, I want to see what the next thing is. Like, we have to be able, with the tournament series, to pull in these big non-endemic sponsors. Like, if they're going to be, I know we have full-time kayak anglers right now, but you don't have a full-time kayak angler living in a $1 million house on Gunnersville with a couple bass boats out in the garage from their fishing career. So, I think there is a cap on kayak fishing, right? Like, it's never going to be the ROI that the bass boat side is. Like, there's not going to be that high end on it, just because of, I feel like, the investment involved, our entry fees and stuff. Like, I don't, and it could happen in 20 years, but in our near future, I don't see it getting that big. But I do think there is a, sustainable $50,000-$60,000 a year mark for people to do it full time when you get the exposure and the non-endemic buy-in. I think that's, call me crazy, but write it down, because I'll be right in about 3 years, I'd say.
3 years from now.
Yeah.
Because I've been thinking that it would have already happened, honestly.
Well, we drank some snake oil back in the day, Kurt. We were all going to be knocking out $100,000 every tournament. Anyhow, realistically, realistically, I think we've seen
3 years.
We've seen the hype, and now, I mean, you see Bassmasters numbers, and you see the involvement that they're putting in. I mean, the media coverage, like, it's awesome. Like, they're, on their social media platforms, on the web pages, like, kayak fishing isn't like the redheaded stepchild anymore. Like, they're actually, they're investing in it. And I love that. And that's why I think it's coming. And I think with the way they've given Steve-O the freedom to do it, and we saw it for a few years, and it didn't have the right person at the top, and they didn't have the bandwidth or investment on their end to let it be great. But I think, I think they're in, and I think, like I said, 3 years. Yep, we're doing it.
It seems like now kayak fishing it's not like I don't know, flash in the pan. I hate to say it, but now it's like an actual real thing. It's sustainable. It's a real sport. It's not just something new that's growing. Now it's actually like made its own way.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, you see it at all the trade shows. Like, it used to, 7 or 8 years ago, you'd go to ICAST and it would just be, there'd be a native booth and a Hobie booth and, feel free. And that was it. But now, like, it's not just that dealers, but booth. It's the kayak fishing kayaks are everywhere at ICAST, at the Classic. Like, people have them in their booths to demonstrate whatever they're trying to push, because the popularity's grown so much. And I think what the fishing industry has realized is how easy it is to get into kayak fishing, and how they have a much higher, conversion rate on the guy standing on the bank. It's a whole lot easier to get him in a kayak than it is to get him in a $120,000 bass boat, obviously. So I think that's part of it. I think the accessibility to kayak fishing is what's going to allow it to continue to not be a flash in the pan like some people thought it was. I mean, really,
Yeah.
I feel like we hit a point 5 years ago where it was kind of sink or swim, and luckily, Hobie came on and did very well with the BOS series, and I think that kind of got. I think, honestly, I don't think if Hobie would have done what they did, being so successful with BOS, I don't think Bassmaster would have done that second revamp and investment into the series.
they saw what it could be.
Yeah.
Right? They saw some promise in what Hobie was doing.
Yep.
So I got to ask, man, you said that there's some full-time kayak anglers, man. How many do you think there are right now?
I don't know.
You
12.
think there's more than 5? I'm just curious.
No, I don't know. I mean,
when
I would say,
think about it, I think of like 3 people maybe.
yeah. Well, Sadiqi's a working man. Sadiqi used to be a full-time kayak fisherman. Now he's a responsible adult. but I feel like there were, and honestly, probably less this year than years past because Cody Milton's a pro pickleballer now. But there's probably, I'd say 8 to
too.
Yeah.
He kind of.
There's probably 8 to 12. I feel like 8 to 12 people that did it full time. And again, doing it full time and making livable money doing it are two different things. Because the sponsorship side from companies, from big brands, isn't there on the kayak side like it is. And there are always outliers, they're always outliers on that. But they, for them, it's not, they're not cutting somebody a $30,000 check, just to use their baits or whatever, make a few videos or do an appearance every year. Where, on the big boat side, they'll have 8 or 10 of those they have a fair amount of kind of slush fund money from the sponsorship side. So again, that comes with exposure, that comes with non-endemic investment. But that's the tricky part. Obviously I think Christine is the outlier for everything. Like she is taken over the fishing world, especially, at what Bassmaster's doing, investing in her for like the female angler, Bassmast her. We make fun of her truck all the time. So it looks like Mike Tyson Bassmath her, but it's a, but yeah, I mean, she's killing it. But there's not many other Christines out there in the world. So everybody else is just trying to rub 2 nickels together.
Cause that part of the business is a whole nother beast, man. It takes a totally different skill set.
Yep.
What's the worst? Like, whenever you look back at it, is there one show that you've done that you're like, that was my least favorite one?
All of the first probably year of KBNs. Jeff and I actually went back and watched some like 6 months ago. I was like, dude, how are we not in prison or something? Like, this is insane. Honestly, man, like we have some challenging guests and stuff, just, entertainment wise, but Jeff and I, as long as we're both on there, we're going to figure something out to carry us through. Like we're not too concerned with that part of it. But after that first year, once we got microphones and got earbuds, and now, we both have like kind of studio lighting and a nice webcam and stuff. Like we took it seriously and invested in it because I feel like that's the product that we're putting out. And we started getting, yearly sponsors, like returning sponsors coming back to be involved with us and invest in us. So I was like, dude, we gotta be pro now. So anyway, I haven't had a worst one, I don't think, other than the first ones are definitely should be stricken from the record, I think.
Yeah. I remember that one with before Steve, the Bassmaster guy, John.
Bro.
God, that upset me so bad.
So I won't count that as the worst because that let me know everything he was about right there.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, well, y'all don't need to be launching after daylight and you need to be staying 50 yards off the bank anyway. I was like, well, this is going to fail.
Yeah,
great job, bud.
And it's like, well, we've been doing that a long time.
Yeah.
Now, your plastic boats, you're lucky to have us.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, man. When I saw that, I didn't do another Bassmaster until Steve took over.
Same.
I was like, I'm done. I'm not giving these guys any of my money.
I think everyone else thought that too. That's why their numbers went down to 40 or what. Like, if you want to tank, say something like that. Especially like you're on our podcast and 20,000 competitive kayak anglers on the group page, and you're like, just come and kick them in the teeth. Like, that was, okay. That wasn't smart, but anyway, that's why he's not there anymore, I think.
Yeah. Are you surprised that what the Bass Pro, I don't know, Major League Fishing, are you surprised they haven't gotten into kayak fishing yet?
No, they did.
Well, yeah, that one. Well, that was FLW, right?
That was FLW.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm surprised that MLF is still in big boat fishing. I think. They might be in kayak fishing soon because I don't think they're gonna be around too much longer. That's another one though, man. Like they did something. They took a chance. They did something disruptive. But I feel like the feedback from a lot of, you see these big name anglers that have bailed, that just dipped. Like they're fishing opens now, trying to get back on the elites. Like when stuff like that happens, you know that the ship's going down. So anyhow, yeah, they'll probably be having a kayak fishing tournament.
They had a great product whenever they started. Whenever it was, it was just an extra thing. It was like it wasn't Bassmaster. It was like their own thing, and then they tried to turn into Bassmaster, and it just
they came
worked.
After Bassmaster is what it was.
Oh,
like they went, and guilty as well. But they stepped out and they went toe to toe with the Giant, and the Giant is winning. The Giant's doing great. I think they put too much on their plate. MLF did. I think they went in way too many different directions, and they lost a lot of their following. And again, I don't think they listened to their tournament anglers, that was their whole premise when they started MLF. This is the anglers tour here, like we care about the anglers, and then you see how it's kind of unfolded here. So always listen to the people that are paying the bills.
That's right. So if there was any more advice you give to anybody if they're going to start a podcast, do you have anything for them?
You don't have to go out and spend a pile of money on junk. You can if you want to. I would suggest we use Streamyard. I think that's a great podcasting platform. It's way easier than anything else that we messed with. So spend a little money on something like that. I would say get a good microphone. Yeah, I like earbuds, whatever. I don't think that matters at all. But get a good microphone. It makes you sound, pretty solid. And a webcam, like you can get a nice like 4K or 1080 HD webcam for a couple $100 off Amazon, and just go with it, man. Like stay consistent. But before you start, have an idea of where you want it to go, and just, make little goals for yourself so you don't lose interest or you don't get down on yourself and want to quit. Like, give yourself, a little motivation to keep going and get better, and listen to these other, like we have a lot of great podcasts in the kayak fishing space. Listen to those and pick apart like your favorite parts of them, or get some inspiration for what your next show might want to be, topics and things. Just, try to go into it with motivation and an open mind, I would say.
There you go. Good advice.
That's my TED talk for the day.
Good job.
Don't drink too much when you're live.
Maybe drink more. I don't know. Some people, a little lubrication.
I don't know. There's a line there, and I've crossed it a few times. Like we've finished some episodes, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what I was saying, man. Sorry about that, Jeff. Too bad we were live. You can't edit that out.
All right. So where can everybody find KBN?
Kayak Bass Nation. We have a public group page on Facebook. We also have the KBN private group that we've alluded to, which is like a knife fight in a dark cellar. We have Kayak Bass Nation on YouTube, Kayak Bass Nation on all audio streaming platforms.
Twitch.
But yeah, Twitch. We have like 2 guys on Twitch that watch Kayak Bass Nation, so that's fantastic. Yep, that's it, man.
Do you have any personal sponsors you want to shout out?
Yeah, man, all those guys. Dugout, Jamie Cozen, Dugout Bait and Tackle. He has been fantastic supporting since he got involved with kayak fishing, he supported trails and tournaments and everything everywhere. And he listens to us on the team as far as what he needs to carry product wise, and does a fantastic job on rigging. If there's anything you need, he will get it for you. Even if he doesn't have it, he'll find somebody that does and get it for you. Z-Man, I've been with Z-Man for years now. I love the whole team at Z-Man. They're very interactive with us. They support us all the time. We have a great article coming out about myself and Jackie Boy, the Australian guy that I gave the freaking winning baits to and taught him how to smallmouth fish on St. Clair for Hobie Worlds. Z-Man's fantastic. Calco's Fishing, which Tackle Works now, but man, David, we've been involved for a few years now, man. He's a great guy. I'm a big relationship person, and anybody getting into the fishing deal, everybody wants sponsors and stickers or, whatever it is. Find people that you get along with, that you care about, that care about you. I'm a relationship person. Like, if you can't give me, like, if you're having a bad year, like COVID, COVID hit a lot of people. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm not going to not work with you because, you're having a tough time. Like, everybody has tough times, but find the relationships, like, where you're helping each other out. Like, that's my biggest thing with my sponsors. They're like family. Like, we'll go out to dinner and I'll act a fool and then, text each other about our families and stuff. Like, it's find those relationships. I love my sponsors. Shimano, obviously, I love Shimano. Ooh. Anything. Loomis rods, yeah. Yep. That's
good
it.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Are you still making clothes?
I still have a pile. Yeah. Well, Yak Addicts. So myself and Shane own the name Yak Addicts, and I have a room full of performance wear and hats and sweatshirts. So if you want any of that, come get it.
I've got a couple. I like them. I think.
I got plenty more, pal. You let me know where to send it.
I'd wear it, but I grew out of them, unfortunately. So
I got a full size run, except smalls, because I don't know any dudes that are small. They kayak fish. I don't know if that's part of the sport. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's what it is.
It's indicative of the sport.
I know. It seems like we'd be physically fit out there, but I guess the trolling motor move really knocked us back. Knocked us back a little bit.
Yeah, I started out paddling. Oh yeah, telling my wife, oh yeah, I'm gonna get in shape with this, and then it was pedals. Then now it's motor, and yeah.
I remember at Broken Bow, I did like 16 miles pedaling in the PA 14, and I was exhausted. I slept like 45 minutes the night before. Like I was like, man, like I'm exhausted. Hell, now I'm motor for 16 miles. I'm like, whew. Oh man, that was tough. Am I there yet? Yeah. We're getting soft, boys. We're getting soft.
All right. Well, appreciate it. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me. Bailey, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate you.
I hope he doesn't listen.
Thanks for letting me carry the whole show. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate you being on. Appreciate y'all listening. We'll see y'all again next week.
All right. See you, fellas.